Good evening, everyone, and welcome to my first ever live stream. I had a minor technical difficulty there when I started to get the stream going, but I think we're all set now. So welcome to everyone, and good evening, or maybe I should say good evening, good afternoon, or good morning, depending on where you're watching from. And I've mentioned this before, that this was a suggestion by my 16-year-old daughter that I should do a live stream at some point. And for the longest time, I avoided it. And I really didn't think I would have much to say, and I wasn't sure exactly how I would go about this whole live stream idea. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought it gave me another way to connect with my viewers, which is something I really enjoy. In fact, I've said before that the greatest thing I get from this whole YouTube experience is the chance to connect with all of you out there and share ideas back and forth, share our interest in firearms. And really, I've just gotten to know some very good people. I've gotten to know a lot of you through either personal, running into you different places, or talking on the phone. We'll email back and forth. And it's been just a great experience. And I'm already starting to see some of the comments coming in. Sonny, how's it going? Mark? Lowell, good evening. Donnie, good evening. Gunny Jones, glad you're here. And my plan this evening is to go for half an hour, give or take, and I want to give you folks some information about what's coming up on my channel, and also try to answer some questions as we go. By the way, off to my left here is Samantha. She's the one that plays all the music that you hear in the intro, and as the video is ending, she does all of that. She's the talented one. I just show up and do a little bit of shooting here and there.
He's pretty good too.
So, couple of things coming up on the channel. I'm going to be, in fact, I was just working this evening on a video coming up where I'm going to be working with a couple of custom firearms, and I think you folks are going to like those. I definitely enjoy them. So that's going to be fun. Also, just yesterday, this is late breaking news, I was contacted by a manufacturer who saw one of my videos where I was using one of their products, and he was impressed with the video, and he wants to send me another one of their products to test, which is tremendous. And it always amazes me when that happens, because in this instance, this is not an inexpensive item that is being sent to me to be able to test, and I'm always grateful for that opportunity. And I try to do the best review that I can and let all of you know what I think of those products. So that's coming up too. And again, I'm jumping back over here to the comments. Hello to everyone out there. I'm getting a lot of hellos there. Thanks to Sunny for the comment on Samantha's piano playing. She's still here. She's hiding off to the side, but she's still in here. Yeah, I get that a lot, that she looks like me. Good evening to everyone. Good for you. City of Trees, good job. Just stick with it. The only thing I can tell you is don't stop. Just continue on, continue working, and eventually you'll get to where you want to be. Mark, I'm glad you enjoy those videos. I'm enjoying making them. Obviously, I've slowed down a little bit here lately with the qualification challenge videos, largely because if you could see outside my house right now, there's about 6 inches of snow, and it's falling pretty heavily. So by tomorrow, there may well be a foot of snow or more. So that makes it a little bit difficult to go out and run around and shoot a qualification course. But I do want to get out there. I've got 8 of this current group of 10 finished. I want to get those last 2 done and then get my wrap-up video for that group of 10. That'll be 30 out of the 50 states, and I'm really looking forward to finishing that series. Although I do still have 4 or 5 states that I need to get qualification courses from, but otherwise I've got courses from every state. And I'm looking back over here to the questions again, or the comments. Any chance of a Makarov in a qualification video? If I can get my hands on one, you'll see it. I don't own one, but I've got various people who have been loaning me firearms for those, and certainly if I come across one, I'll get it out there and you'll get a chance to see it in a video. And it's taking me a second here just to kind of read down through some of these. No problem, Bill, with assisting with anything. I enjoy passing on the things I've learned. I've talked before about how I've had the benefit of a lot of training at the taxpayer's expense. So I kind of feel like I'm giving something back when I'm passing on what I've learned to all of you out there. I don't feel like I have any secrets that I have to keep or anything like that. Anything that I've learned that I know that I can pass on, I'm always willing to do. Catch Jitsu, I saw that video you made on the Rock Island revolvers, and they looked like they were pretty good firearms, and kind of interested to me when I watched your video. I thought, maybe I should get a hold of one of those and give it a try. I'm kind of a dyed-in-the-wool Smith & Wesson revolver fan, but at the same time, I'm always up for trying something new. How can you get a firearm to me to do a review or qualification? The easiest way is if you live somewhere close by and we could get together and do it that way. I really don't like to have people ship me firearms, at least not individuals. If it's a company that's sending a firearm or something like that, that doesn't bother me quite so much. But I'm always very nervous or leery. If someone sends me a firearm, I'm always afraid I'm going to scratch it or damage it, or it's going to get stolen or something bad's going to happen to it. So I'm always really leery of that. If you saw the video that I made a couple of weeks ago with the Shiloh Sharps rifle, that was one that was loaned to me. And if you saw that video, it's just a gorgeous firearm. And I was so nervous with that thing when I was out at the range that I was going to put a ding in it, do something to it. But I managed to not put any blemishes on that I'm aware of, and it'll shortly be returned to its owner. But like I said, I'm always very concerned about doing that. Would you consider a viewer meetup at Ratton at the Whittington Center? I've never been to the Whittington Center. I'm not opposed to that idea. I just don't know when I would do it. One of my biggest challenges is always time and I mentioned this not too long ago, between my daughter and her schedule and my wife and her schedule and my full-time job and everything else. Sometimes trying to shoehorn different things into that schedule doesn't work very well. Something I'll throw out there that I have been thinking about doing, and you all can let me know what you think about this idea, is maybe inviting as many viewers as want to come here, and we have a get-together at the range and do some shooting. For any of you that don't know, I'm a chief of police in a small village here in Ohio. And one of the things that we do for our community is a shop with a cop for our underprivileged children. And we're always, it seems like, trying to scrape money together for that, to have money to take the kids shopping. And we take them out during Christmas time, and they're able to get gifts for themselves, and they get gifts for their family members. And I've thought different times about maybe doing a big invite here for anybody that wants to come and, like I said, meet out at the range. And it would just be for donations to our shop with a cop, and we could do some shooting, do some talking, just basically hang out together for a while. And I've never mentioned that before in one of the videos, but it's something that's been in the back of my mind for a while. So you all can let me know kind of what you think of that idea. Obviously, it would be probably easiest if you were somewhere in easy driving distance of Northern Ohio, but I would leave that up to you to make your own travel arrangements. And give me a second here to just read a couple more comments. States that I'm missing, I need Alaska and Hawaii. I need Kentucky. I think Rhode Island. And there might be one more that I'm still missing. I don't have my list here handy, but I know definitely Alaska, Hawaii, and Kentucky. Hi, Andrew. No problem being late. If I could get some 1873 or 1886 lever guns, I would definitely do that. I think I'm going to have some lever guns coming up here pretty soon that are going to be interesting. Just kind of stay tuned for that. Brand recommendations for service rifles. Wow. Now there's a conversation that could really ignite some flames. I've always used Rock Rivers for my service rifles, for my AR service rifle. I should specify that. For the M1As, I like Springfield Armories, but there are definitely a lot of other good ones out there. One of the nice things about service rifle shooting is it's more about you as the shooter, really, than it is your equipment. You can have people go out with basically issued rifles, and if they're good shooters, they're going to be pretty competitive, at least up to a point, with people with even more expensive equipment. So really, it's sort of up to you how much you want to spend to get started in service rifle competition. There are a lot of good options out there. Like I said, for an AR, I like Rock Rivers, but there are definitely a lot of other good ones too. Dings and blemishes add character. In that case, I have a lot of character. What's your favorite revolver, automatic, and duty pistol? Wow. That's a little like asking what's your favorite child. If I had to pick a favorite revolver, and I've mentioned this before in videos, it would probably be my 3-inch Smith & Wesson Model 66. I really like that revolver. It's just a special firearm. That would probably be my favorite revolver. Favorite semi-auto? Wow. I'm going to go with a GI 1911 just because that's what I carried in the Marine Corps. And again, that's a special firearm to me. But there are a lot of other good ones that I have in my collection and a lot of other good ones that I've shot. You have to excuse me. I have to keep jumping back here to read the comments. No snow in North Carolina. We got plenty here. Hoorah, bud. Ted, that'd be great. And like I said, if I ever put this thing together and invite everybody here, I think it would be tremendous. I would really like to meet a lot of you. As I said a little while ago, I have met some of you already, different places, and that's always great. And by the way, if you see me, if you happen to see me, whether I'm at Camp Perry or the NRA annual meeting, or if I'm at a gun show or whatever, please feel free to stop and say hi. I really enjoy meeting all of you. I like having a chance to talk to you. So don't hesitate to come up and say hi. Do you see optics on an M1A cheek pieces? I've never seen a scope forward mount in any of the competition that I shoot. Generally, the M1As tend to be as issued. I would have to look at the modern service or the modern military rifle rules to see if a scoped M1A would actually be legal. I tend to think they probably would not, but again, I would have to look at that and see for sure. Hi, Frank. Good for you, Gunny Jones. That's a great lever gun you picked up, and a great cartridge too. The first time I ever shot a 4570, by the way, was when I was shooting that Shiloh Sharps a couple of weeks ago. So Now I do have a 444 Marlin of my own, so I'm used to shooting a big bore straight wall cartridge, but the 4570 was fun. Fulton Armory wins a lot of matches. They've said a few, and I believe that. And I've got a Fulton Armory AR. I'd like to have one of their M1As, or what I really, what I've been lusting for a long time is one of their tanker M1 Garands. I just think they're cool. Maybe one of these days I'll get around to being able to purchase one of those. You know, I think probably in not so much as a backup as it is an off-duty carry, but my Smith & Wesson Model 342 Airlight TI, that really, really light 5-shot revolver, it's just so easy to carry. And in fact, I was carrying it earlier this evening. Yeah, it's like carrying nothing, but I still have 5 shots of 38 special ammunition. So, in a backup capacity, that I'm okay with that. I don't feel like I have to have tons and tons of ammunition. If I have just enough to keep the bad guy ducking while I'm trying to get myself out of a bad situation, then that's good for me. Yep, 745 is a tack driver. I agree. Benny Jones, I'm not surprised that your favorite is an M14. That goes along with being a Marine. What is the handgun you're most excited about from the SHOT Show? Yeah. I'm kind of embarrassed to say that I haven't seen a lot of SHOT Show coverage. I've been so busy here lately that I haven't had a chance to really look at a lot of that. So I don't know. I'm not sure what I think is the most exciting thing. When I get to the NRA annual meeting in a month or two here and have a chance to look at some of this stuff for myself, I'll better be able to answer that kind of a question. Andrew's supervisor is watching and has a question. He wants to know when he just changed the springs in his M&P 2.0. Smith & Wesson recommends that you change the springs every 5 years or 5,000 rounds, and that should be magazine spring, recoil spring, and trigger spring. So if you have an armorer that can take care of those things for you, that's the recommendation from the factory. Now, I'll tell you that I've run springs a lot longer than that, but they just recommend it every 5 years or 5,000 rounds to be sure that those springs are going to function properly. I did not notice that Remington has shuttered the DPMS and Bushmaster websites. I did not know that. I haven't looked at those in a while, but I did not know they weren't there anymore. Ted absolutely loves the M1 Grand. So do I. Tanker Garand in 308 or 06. That's something I was going back and forth about. Probably in 308, it seems like that would be a little better fit. But then again, I don't know. The 06 would be kind of cool. Ken from Texas. I don't have the Llama 38 Super anymore. I ended up taking that and I made a video when this happened. I took it back. I said, look, this thing's not working. I had sent it back to the factory gunsmith. It still wasn't working. I ended up being able to exchange it for an American Classic 2, which is also made by the same company, by Metro Arms. And the American Classic 2 in 38 Super runs very well. In fact, I made a qualification video with that a while back. So I've been happy with that. And I wish that Llama would have run because I sort of like that minimalist GI style, and it kind of had that 1930s G-Man sort of vibe going on with it, but it just wouldn't run. How do I always get the range all by myself? The range that I use, if you saw the video that I made where I was talking about the behind the scenes of making a firearms video, I went out to the range that I use most of the time. And that's our PD range, and it's basically back in the woods. And most of the time, nobody else is there. So that's how I get that one to myself. The other ranges, periodically, if you watch close, especially if I'm not at the range where you usually see me, if I'm on the big rifle range or something like that, once in a while you'll see or hear other people in the background. So I don't always have the range to myself. Sometimes there are other people there. Sometimes they're looking at me kind of funny when I'm talking to the camera and shooting and things like that. But I've gotten used to that over the years. Doug, wondering if I reload ammo. Yes, I do. I've got various different equipment. I've got a RCBS single stage press. I've got a couple of Lee progressive presses. I've got all kinds of, other, when you start hand loading, it seems like you start out with a small set of stuff, and then over the years it builds and builds and builds. So now I got like an entire section of the basement that's nothing but reloading equipment from all different kinds of manufacturers. So I got all kinds of stuff down there. Have I changed the springs of my CS9? How much has it shortened since 1990? I think I did. I think if I remember right, I changed those springs several years ago. Now that pistol still runs just fine and dandy, and I can't tell you now just exactly how many years are on the current springs. That pistol I sort of semi-retired in 2014 when I got my Shield, but I still pull it out every once in a while. I still shoot it. I still really like that CS9. It's just a great little pistol. It's the smallest factory iteration of what was once the design for the Model 39. And I just really like that little pistol. That's why I still have it. I've never been able to bring myself to trade it or anything else. Gunny, you have a great evening too. Semper Fi to you. Get yourself some sleep and have a good day tomorrow. Thoughts on a good lever action in 357 Magnum, Henry or Marlin? There was a time that I would have said absolutely positively Marlin. Nowadays, I think Henry has kind of edged him out. And I've been looking at a lot of the Henry rifles lately. I would like to pick up one of those Henry side loaders. In fact, I've looked at them a couple of times. I've seen a couple here recently. I think I'd give the nod to Henry nowadays. I don't know enough about Rossi or some of the other ones to really give you an opinion one way or the other. Uh, 308. Okay. If ever your higher ups told you to disarm the populace based on newly passed legislation, this is funny. And I remember when Beto O'Rourke made that comment a while back about how, we're coming to take your firearms and this and that. And I thought to myself, who's we? Because I know who he's thinking about. He's thinking he's going to have a legion of police officers following him to people's houses to confiscate firearms. And I'm thinking, it's not going to be me. Beto, if you want to go out and pick up the firearms from people, you have at it. You come back and let me know how it goes. I am not going out to confiscate anybody's firearms. No, I would resign before I did that. I don't have a Lee Pro 1000. The ones that I have are the Lee turret presses. Those are the ones that I use, which work pretty well for me. I can knock out quite a bit of ammunition pretty quickly on those things, but I don't have a Loadmaster. Thanks, Tom. I'm glad it's working out well. I was a little worried about the picture quality and the sound quality. Does this sound okay to you guys? I went out and got a microphone this afternoon just for this. It's this little jobby right here. So I was hoping that the sound would be pretty good for everybody to be able to hear what I was saying. Yeah, a lot of people think that, Sonny, that police officers would be more interested in keeping their job. I don't know that that's the case, at least not in rural Ohio. I can say that much. Not sure about reloading in the main course. As I recall, in the main course, state of Maine course, the reloading just occurred whenever it happened through the course. There was not a mandatory stage where reloading occurred, but it was kind of odd because if you had a stage where there was a time limit and you had to reload, then you weren't penalized if you went over the time limit. So it was kind of like the time limit didn't really apply if you had to reload. That course was just sort of different in its approach. It was a little different than any of the other courses that I've shot so far. And as I said a little while ago, I've shot almost 30 of them to this point, or 30 different state courses. Good. I'm glad the sound is perfect. Thoughts on favorite shooting glasses? Lens color. The lens color a lot of time depends on what sort of light conditions you have outside. If it's overcast, then something that's brighter, that makes your sights brighter, the bright amber or something like that. If it's really bright outside, then something darker to try to keep that sunlight from distorting your sight picture. So it kind of depends on that. I don't, as far as a brand or something like that, I really don't have a favorite brand of shooting glasses or anything like that. Of course, I've got these things that you folks have seen that this is my aim cam that takes my shooter's perspective view when I'm out recording, particularly the qualification videos. And you see those shots where it looks like you're actually shooting the pistol. That's from the aim cam. Glad you made it, Rabbi. I'm glad you're here. How do you pick up the firearms you use? A lot of them are part of my personal collection. A few of them that I've borrowed. So and I think so far I've only had one repeat performance, and I think that was with the 4-inch Model 19. And I don't mind having a repeat performance with the 4-inch Model 19. But particularly as I get through these last 20 courses, you might start to see some of the same pistols over again. But yeah, I've tried to, as much as I can, do a different firearm for a different course each time. How's the Duracoat holding up? Duracoat holds up well. I like Duracoat because it's simple to apply. It's something I can do myself in my garage or even outside for that matter. And if you apply it properly, if you take the time to do the surface prep and you apply it properly, and then I usually do a final coating with the clear coat Duracoat, it holds up very well. Now, it'll get a scuff here and there or a mark, just like virtually any other firearms finish. Bluing or parkerizing or whatever, but generally speaking, it holds up very well. It is possible to meet me at Camp Perry this year. I'm planning on going there, although again, we're going back to my schedule now. My wife has a vacation for us scheduled in South Carolina the week before the national matches. And I'm going to have to get back here, get loaded up, and then get up to Camp Perry. So I'm hoping to be up there. I might not be there the very first day of the rifle matches, but I should be there at some point during Camp Perry or during the national matches at Camp Perry. Old age and iron sights do not mix. I can't disagree with that. Doing great on my first live. Thank you, because I was nervous as could be waiting for this. I wasn't sure exactly how well this would go. I'm used to making videos and I can edit them or I can reshoot a particular segment or whatever. This is sort of live without a net. And I wasn't sure exactly how well it would go. So hopefully I'm not sounding like a rambling imbecile or anything like that. You're actually getting something out of this. As chief, do you allow a list of manufacturers and calibers to carry? Does everyone carry an M&P 40? Actually, no. The way I do things is a little different. We have an issued firearm. We have a Glock 23 that's the issued firearm for the department. But if officers want to carry something different, they can request authorization for that, and I can approve them to carry something different. And as long as it's something reasonable and it's something they're comfortable with and they shoot well and they can qualify with, I don't have a problem authorizing that. Now, if somebody showed up with a Desert Eagle or a Single Action Army or something like that, I might be a little leery on that. But generally speaking, I think everything we have in the department right now is either a Glock or a Smith M&P. It's one or the other of those two. Yeah, I'd like to get one of those tanker M1 Garands. CZ97 or PO1. Wait a second. Oh, okay. Thank you, Robert. I would like to try either or both of those. I like CZ firearms, and the more I shoot them, the more I tend to like them. So that would be great. Thoughts on the Hellcat? My thoughts are I'd like to get a hold of one and try it out. It seems like an interesting firearm. And by the way, I'm going to be doing a video here in the near future. It's probably going to be a midweek update on an experience I've had with Springfield Armory that was very positive, and I want to make that known to everyone. And I really would like to get a hold of a Hellcat to try it out. If I had to choose a pistol for all LEOs to use, which would it be? Wow. It's funny because I just had a question from Catch Jitsu actually early today about issuing firearms to an entire department. And I've done that. I've tested firearms. I've made recommendations for department-wide issue. And this was my former department. I've made recommendations for firearms for the tactical team, long guns, shotguns, handguns, whatever. And I can tell you it's not an easy process because you can't focus on yourself. You can't focus on what you like the best or what would work best for you. You have to focus on what would work best for the officers in the department who may or may not have the same skill level that you have or the same understanding of firearms and ballistics and all that kind of thing. So sometimes you don't end up recommending what you yourself would really like to carry, but what you think is going to work best for everyone else. And if it sounds like I'm dodging the question on which one I would recommend, I am. What do you make of the recent kerfuffle regarding the reintroduction of the Colt Python? It's just disappointing. And what do I make of the reintroduction of Smith & Wesson Model 19? I'm such a fan of the classic 19. I'll answer the first or the second half of the question first. Such a fan of the original 19 that when I look at the new one, that barrel is just fatter. It's got a different look to it. I kind of like to shoot one just to see how they shoot, but it's definitely not the classic 19, Model 19. And the Python sounds like it's sort of the same way. It's just not the classic Colt Python, and apparently it's having some functioning issues of its own or some teething issues that Colt's going to have to work out. I got to roll this back down a little bit so I can catch some of these questions that I missed. Thoughts on a 442 or 642? My wife has a 442 and I have a 642, and I like them both. I can't really choose between them. I mean, they're so similar, or such similar firearms. I really like them. I like my 342 the best because it's so light, but those J-frame Smith & Wesson revolvers are just so easy to carry, and just drop dead reliable. There's not a bad thing I can say about it. Just great firearms. Should try an XS Big Dot. I've got an XS Big Dot on one of my firearms, and it is. I like it. It's quick to pick up. It's easy to see, even if I'm not wearing my glasses like I am right now. So I do like those sights. Already done a qualification with a SIG 220. No, I did one with a SIG 227. I've not done one with a 220 as of yet. Thanks, Frank. I appreciate it. Favorite duty flashlight? For just duty use, I got to tell you, back in 1990, when I was first hired, 91, first hired by my former department, I purchased a Streamlight Stinger, and I've still got that thing, and it still works. The only thing I've ever done to it is switched out the battery stick and put new bulbs in it periodically, but the thing just keeps working. It's a rechargeable flashlight. It's downstairs in my basement right now, recharging. I gotta say, that's, yeah, I mean, by today's standards, it's kind of big, it's kind of bulky, it's kind of heavy, but that darn thing works, and it's lasted for almost 30 years at this point. I think the state's not attempted yet would give you the benefit of the doubt. I hope so. I hope I can get a hold of some of those folks and get those courses that I still need. Ammo on duty is Spear Gold Dot. For the 40, it's 165 grain Spear Gold Dot. People say I'm a natural at this. I don't know. I'm not feeling too natural right now. Take care, Ted. I'm glad you were able to come. Oh, no, not a Glock. Oops. Something happened there. I kind of lost everything. And I'm looking for another question on here. What's my vote for the most useful or useless firearm? There was a thing called a Grendel that was made years ago. It was the most unreliable pistol I ever saw in my life. I saw 2 or 3 of them that officers were using for off-duty and backup at the time. They did not have they had a magazine built into the firearm, kind of like an M1 Garand, so you had to load the thing through the ejection port, and they never did work very well. That would probably be my pick for the most useless firearm. Why aren't you monetized? My videos are monetized, and this thing I think is monetized. At least I clicked the monetize button for it, so I don't know whether it's going to amount to anything or not, but I do try to get these things monetized. How do I like the Glock 23? If you saw my video that I made several years ago, I'm just not a Glock fan. There's nothing wrong with them, not a thing wrong with them. They're reliable. They're good firearms. I just don't care for them. They don't fit my hand well. They don't point naturally for me, and I don't really care for the trigger. And I'm not trying to be critical. And if any of you out there or all of you are Glock fans, then I am happy for you. I hope they work well for you. I just don't care for them myself. I much prefer the Smith & Wesson M&P or a good 1911. But I'm just not a Glock fan. Yeah, I did dodge that question. Favorite handgun ever? when I make the videos, and I've done this the last 2 years in a row, where I make my favorite video of, I did one for 2019 and favorite video, favorite firearm for 2019 and favorite firearm for 2018. It is so hard, and I've got a fairly small group. I think in 2018 I had 7 firearms or something like that. This past year I had 6 or 7 again, something like that. But when I'm going through all those firearms that I really like, and I have to pick just one, it is gut-wrenching. And to try to pick a favorite handgun of all time, I don't know that I can do it. The best I could do would be to come up with, and I did this a little while ago, my favorite from certain groups, like favorite revolver, favorite semi-auto, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think I could pick just one and say that's my favorite of all times. Do I know any officers who still carry a revolver? I do not. And it's kind of odd because I think there are a lot of officers who are not really firearms aficionados. They don't spend a lot of time shooting. They don't ever really get comfortable with the semi-autos, who would probably be still really well served with a quality double action revolver. But the times have changed and the styles have changed and everything else. And I just don't know anyone these days that still carries a double action revolver. At my former department, they basically changed over around 1991. There were still about half the department back then that were carrying revolvers. And that's when we got the 5943 Smith & Wessons, and those were double action only. So the revolver carrying officers went to that double action only Smith, and basically nobody ever looked back after that. It was all semi-autos from then on. Did I see End of Watch? No, I did not. I did not see that. I did see Super Troopers, unfortunately. I was not a fan of that movie. Besides Colt, what's my favorite 1911? Besides Colt, what is my favorite 1911? I'd have to go with one of the ones that I own. And the ones that I own that I really like are Remingtons. And I know Remington's firearms or Remington pistols don't have the greatest reputation, but I've got 3 Remington 1911 R1s. They're all great pistols. They run well. They're accurate. So I guess I would have to go with those. Is the 40 Smith & Wesson caliber dying? Yes, it is. And I don't know that it should be. I think there's a lot of talk about the 40 Smith & Wesson and the 9mm and all that. I think when the FBI made the transition back to 9mm, that kind of spiked a nail in the coffin for the 40 Smith & Wesson, and a lot of police agencies have been following. The 40 is still a good cartridge, but with the advances in bullet technology and one thing and another, the 9mm has just become the cartridge of choice these days. Have I done the Idaho Qual? I don't think I've done Idaho yet. Any George Thompson type verbal judo taught in the department? Not currently. And I haven't seen a course for verbal judo in a long time. I was not entirely sure it was still being taught. Yeah, I see that about Virginia. You folks in Virginia have my sincere sympathy. I don't know. I hope things get straightened out there. Tom remembers the Grendel. Yeah, and you're right. It did become the Keltec design. In fact, I think the gentleman who founded Keltec was involved in designing the Grendel, and he basically took that design and then revamped it, and it became the Keltec. How many times a year do I compete in high power matches? I have a club that I belong to, and we have at least 2 matches a month, sometimes 3, and then of course up the national matches. And when I can make it down to the Eastern Games in North Carolina, so during the summertime, I shoot high power matches a lot. Do I follow any gun channels on YouTube? I've got a few that I subscribe to, not too many, but I do watch some of them when I have time, when I'm not making my own videos. Catch Jitsu, regarding the top 15 and bottom 15%, I sent you back a pretty lengthy opinion on all of that. So if you take a look at that, I think I've answered that one in there. If I were going to buy a new Beretta, do I find the M9A3 worth the premium over, say, a 92A1? I really like my M9A3. I said in the original video that I made on that firearm that I think that's the one the military should have gone with, rather than revamping everything and going with a completely different pistol. Do I think it offers a lot over the 92A1? I think I'm going to say yes. Between the sights and the finish and the interchangeable grips, so you can change the contour and the size of the grip and all that, it does offer quite a bit. I think I would go with the M9A3 over the 92A1 if I had to pick one of those two. Now, that said, I really like my original Beretta M9. It fits my hand well. It shoots well. It's just a good, basic, solid firearm. So I really like the M9 also. And those things are fairly inexpensive by today's standards. What kind of shotgun do I carry on duty? Traditionally, I've carried a Remington 870. Recently, I've gone with a modified 1187. If you guys saw that video of the one that I made, I actually use that one at work, or at least I have it at work available for me. Was your decision to become a Marine and then a police officer influenced by anyone famous, fictional, or real? Probably some of both. I wanted to be a police officer from the time I was very young, and I was trying to figure out how to accomplish that. And in Ohio, you can't be a police officer until you're at least 21 years old. So I had to figure out something to do with myself between the time I graduated high school and the time I turned 21. And I didn't have enough money to go to college, so it didn't give me a long list of options. I ended up choosing the Marine Corps. I was able to go into the Marine Corps and work as a military policeman for 4 years, which was a tremendous experience. I gained a lot of knowledge about law enforcement from being a Marine military policeman. There's really no difference between law enforcement operations on a Marine Corps installations or on a Marine Corps installation rather, as opposed to, any town USA. And it's interesting because I've actually upheld the tenets of our Constitution in countries where our Constitution is just a fading document in a country thousands of miles away. So it's an odd thing. It gives you I think a real sense for not only the protections of our Constitution, but also the idea as a police officer, you are upholding those tenets. And that doesn't always necessarily mean doing everything to catch the bad guy. That means doing it the right way. I pride myself as a police officer in knowing the law and doing things within the bounds of the law, and not coming up with ways to circumvent the law just to accomplish what I want to. There are legal ways to catch the bad guys, if you will, that don't violate the Constitution or anything else. And good police officers will use those type of means rather than other types. Anthony's asked me if I'm on forums other than the MCarbo forum. A few. There are a few forums that are gracious enough to allow me to post links to my videos on those forums, and I tend to frequent those forums. And there's only it's kind of a handful. It's about 5 or 6 that I'm a member of. A couple of the bigger ones flat out told me, don't post videos here, which kind of took me aback. I thought, this is kind of odd, because other people will post videos of, not their videos, but they'll post links to someone else's videos on YouTube and say, hey, so-and-so's got this kind of firearm, or so-and-so reviewed that, or whatever. But for some reason, the folks that ran those forums were not happy with the idea that I was posting links to my own videos there. I read the forum rules every time before I posted any videos. And I was kind of, like I said, kind of taken aback by that. I thought, if you have people that frequent your forum that might find this interesting and it might bring more people to your forum, I'm not sure why you would want to restrict someone from putting something like that on there. And I always try, and I didn't just post a link and then go away and never go back. I would, go back and try to make comments and answer questions and stuff like that. But when I got that kind of response from those large forums, I thought, well, I'm just not going to frequent those forums anymore. And like I said, I've got a small group that I do go back to, and I enjoy participating in, and MCarbo is one of them. Andrew's asking, in my department, whether Glocks or M&Ps are more popular. It's probably about a 50-50 split right now. I would actually have to stop and think and kind of mentally go officer to officer, but it's about a 50-50 split between Glocks and M&Ps right now. I'm looking down through this list here. Pine, hi there. I remember you from Camp Perry. Be sure to say hi if you see me up there this year. KSG shotguns, I think, are kind of interesting. I'd like to get a hold of one of those and give it a try. In fact, the whole Kel-Tec line, and I've sort of gone 360 degrees on this, or maybe 180 degrees. Years ago, I didn't want anything to do with Kel-Tec firearms, and it seems like more recently they've come out with some fairly interesting things. You may recall last year I purchased that Sub 2000, and that thing's been a good firearm. I can't complain one bit about it. It runs well, it's accurate, it does exactly what it's supposed to do, it's easy to carry. And they've got some other things in their lineup that I wouldn't mind trying, and the KSG is one of them. Some of these are kind of long. I'm trying to read down through them quickly so I can try to give an answer. Yes, the Sub 2000 with the MCarbo kit. I haven't changed out any of the trigger components on my Sub 2000, and For the use that I have for it, there's always a liability concern if you change anything with the fire control. So I haven't changed out anything like that, but I have changed it over to use the Smith M&P magazines. I've added the M-Carbo optic mount. I went with the higher M-Carbo rear sight, the tube cover, so it's not banging against my jaw every time that I fire it. But I haven't changed out any of the actual fire control components. Ooh, I just looked up at the clock and we're almost at an hour. I said it was going to go a half an hour. We're at 56 minutes. So I think I'm actually going to start to wrap things up here before it gets too late into the evening. But I really appreciate everyone coming by for my first live stream. I think it's gone tremendously well, better than I would have ever expected. This whole experience with YouTube, and I'll throw this out here at the end, has really humbled me. When I first started to post videos on YouTube, I really didn't know quite what to expect. And it's sort of over the years developed into this little community with me and so many of you. And I really, really appreciate all of the feedback, all of the comments, all of the well wishes, the people that when you see me and you stop and say hi. It's just been a tremendous experience. I don't at all think of myself as a star of a show or anything like that. I'm just a guy who happens to post videos on YouTube, and the feedback that I get from all of you and the response and the communication is just wonderful. And I appreciate it more, I think, than you could ever know. Thank you very much, everyone, for stopping by. Have a very safe and good evening, and we'll do this again sometime. So that's it for now. Until next time, good shooting. Bye-bye.